Hello, my name is Chris Reddick, the Hard Hats with Heart Development Director for the American Heart Association. We are live at the Carhartt Workshop in downtown Detroit for today's Toolbox Talk. It is no secret that industrial careers are hard work. They are physically and mentally demanding, requiring early start times, long hours, strenuous activity, and often eating what's on hand rather than what's healthy. We also know that cardiovascular disease disproportionately affects construction workers. That's why the American Heart Association created the Hard Hats with Heart initiative to engage industrial workers across the country and inspire them to live longer, healthier lives. Today's Toolbox Talk is all about having a healthy holiday season. I want to thank Carhartt for opening up their workshop today and for being a proud sponsor of Hard Hats with Heart. I will now turn it over to St. Joe's dietitian Allie Babcock for some tips on getting through the holiday season.
Hi everyone, I'm Allie Babcock, a registered dietitian and lifestyle medicine provider at St. Joe's, and I'm back with the American Heart Association at the Carhartt Workshop here at our tool bench to talk a little bit more about healthy eating for your holidays this season. We all know that the holidays can be a time where sometimes we lose track and we're not as healthy as we'd like to be. And so I'm here to give you some really simple recipes and a few tips and tricks to help make keeping yourself healthy and happy this holiday season a breeze. Hopefully these recipes can work their way into your holiday season cheer as you share with family and friends this season. So with that, let's get started. We all know that the holidays, when we are beginning to do a lot of snacking, is a time where we tend to just keep going back and overdo it on appetizers. And so there are three big tips to think about when you're trying to keep yourself really healthy for the holiday season. The first is to eat the rainbow and shop seasonal. If you're looking at what's in front of us here, you're gonna see lots of colors and seasonal fruits and vegetables, like leafy greens like arugula, kale, root vegetables like our carrots here, parsnips or potatoes, and then a lot of citrus fruits. Think color and shop seasonally and layer those all items into your dishes this season. The second thing to think about is find ways to figure out swaps or alternatives that help keep calories down a little bit while still enjoying some of the treats you all really love to have during the holiday season. My family loves to have chips, crackers, cheese and crackers on the table, and so I've taken the opportunity to show you some different alternatives. Here we have a plant-based cheese spread, which is my favorite option to substitute out your traditional cheese and crackers, but also go for whole grains. I have some rich whole grain 9-seed bread or our Crunch Masters crackers, which are really great alternatives to add to a snacking plate. I always try and have fresh fruits and vegetables around, and so you can grab citrus fruits or root vegetables like carrots. I find that if you prep them and take the time, people will enjoy them. Some other options we have here are some roasted dried beans. These are some roasted chickpeas. Lots of times they come in various flavors, and so you can also have these wasabi edamame, which is a great source of plant-based protein and really excellent source of fiber, which help keeps our blood sugar stable and our heart healthy. You can also grab and indulge in the sweet treat like some dried fruit. These are some dried local cherries. Or you could take that all together and mix it up for a trail mix. I have here some walnuts, dried cherries, some vegan chocolate, and some sunflower seeds just to give it a little extra kick. So those swaps are the second thing to think about when we're thinking about keeping healthy this holiday season. And the third one is honestly more simple than you can imagine. It's just being outside and being active. One of the researchers I love to follow says that blue and green should be seen. Get outside in nature. Perhaps you want to do a holiday festive activity such as skating around Campus Martius. Get outside and enjoy a walk after dinner or before your holiday meal with family and friends to really support each other, but also make sure that you keep active during the holidays. I have two recipes for you guys today. My first recipe is going to be an appetizer and my second a salad. So our first appetizer is going to be marinated beans and mushrooms, which can be served with a delicious appetizer like crunchy crostini or on toast. It can also be made ahead and stored, so none of that preparation that needs to be done right before you're walking out the door. This is something you could do the night before, the week before. The longer it sits, the better it gets. So the first step in this recipe is going to be to open up a can of butter beans. Butter beans are these large, beautiful, flat beans that usually don't have a lot of flavor. They absorb whatever you put in it. So go ahead and rinse those beans and drain them. And what you're gonna do is add them to a quick bowl here. We're gonna assemble everything in one bowl, and it's gonna be really easy to go from there. The second thing you're gonna wanna grab are some mushrooms. Go ahead and grab some cremini mushrooms or button mushrooms, give them a wash, and you're just gonna go ahead and cube them into little quarters, just so that they're a little bit more bite size. If you don't want quite that big of a bite and you want something a little bit smaller, by all means, go ahead. Mushrooms are a great food to add to any holiday dish because they have a really great umami taste, which means that they are an excellent meat substitute. And so whether you're cooking mushrooms or marinating them like we are here, they're an awesome thing to add to give yourself a little extra flavor. I also like mushrooms because they have a special phytonutrient in them called beta-glucan, which is a source of fiber. And fiber helps keep our blood sugar stable, and this phytonutrient does just that. So if anyone is dealing with any issues in their family like prediabetes, which can increase your risk of cardiovascular disease down the line, adding mushrooms in is a great suggestion to any meal to help keep you healthy. Our beans are also a really great source of fiber. And so butter beans, cantellini beans, black beans, whatever the choice that you choose to substitute in, say, a dish like this, all of those have a great source of fiber as well as a great source of plant-based protein, which help keep you full for hours, making sure you don't necessarily have to overindulge or feel like you need to eat more of those maybe sweet indulgent treats. So here we are, my mushrooms are in. I'm just gonna give them a quick stir to mix them up with my beans. And in we go with our next few ingredients. This marinade is all about layering in different bits of flavor. So the first thing we're gonna layer in is garlic. I have here some 2 peeled cloves of garlic, and I'm just gonna mince them very small. And we're gonna crush the garlic to open up all of the awesome anti-inflammatory properties that are inside. Garlic wants to be cut and crushed so that it is allowed to sit so that the anti-inflammatory properties are allowed to activate. You generally want to chop garlic and let it sit on your cutting board or in a dish free of heat or acid for at least 15 minutes to maximize its properties. All right, so into our bowl, our garlic goes. The next step here is I've already taken the liberty of chopping, but go ahead and grab yourself a red onion. Toss in half of a red onion to allow some more of those awesome allium-based anti-inflammatories to hit our marinade. We're just gonna toss everything together as we go. So my other layer of flavor and my secret weapon in any pantry is gonna be some delicious roasted red peppers. Now you can roast your red peppers at home if you have some extra, say, from the garden, or if this is something you want to have in your freezer, but I really like to grab just anything from the grocery store that's canned just because it's a little bit easier. Roasted red peppers add a lot of flavor, the char adds acid, and they have a rich source of vitamin C, which everyone seems to need around the holiday season when we get a little run down perhaps, when cold and flu season is rampant. Add in some vitamin C with some delicious peppers. I'm going to go ahead and just make some slices, and I'm just going to dice up this pepper into smaller chunks just so that it goes into every bite. I'm going to finish up with my second red pepper here. These are super easy to have on hand and delicious to add into soups or stews, as well as any kind of pasta salad dish. All right, so into here you want to keep all those juices. We're going to toss into our marinade. So now that that's all in, we just want to give it a mix. And this is a great step to add a little bit more seasoning. So whenever I think about seasoning, we always want to make sure we have a nice blend of salt and pepper. I really like this product because it does it for me, especially when I'm in a rush in the holidays, and it's a local product. So add in, I would say, about a teaspoon amount. Whenever you're adding in salt, you want to measure because sodium can really add to increases in our risk of hypertension or high blood pressure. So go ahead and measure your salt blend. About a teaspoon for this whole recipe will do it more than fine. The next thing you want to think about adding is some other agents of flavor. I like to have an Italian kick on this, and so I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of capers. Capers can be pickled, or these are packed in salt to preserve them, and they're actually the buds of flowers. And they are really rich in antioxidants, which help to reduce free radicals in our body that ends up causing chronic disease. So go ahead and give that a quick toss. And then we're gonna toss in our herbs. So the 2 herbs I've chosen for this recipe are a delicious, very seasonal rosemary and some fresh Italian flat leaf parsley. So go ahead and take about a handful's bunch of parsley. For this recipe, I actually like to keep the stems. So I just go ahead and tuck it all together to make sure it's all rolled up. And very easily, I just go ahead and chop. And then we're gonna go across 90 degrees and mince. So parsley, aside from smelling fresh and keeping everything very delicious, is a really great source of greens to add. When I think about staying healthy in the holidays, I remember my acronyms. One of my favorite acronyms is G-BOMBS: greens, beans, mushrooms, onions, and herbs and spices. And when we think about all of the food that we've even just layered into this dish, we have beans, we have mushrooms, we have greens, and so your onions, you're already halfway there. So go ahead and dump all of our parsley chopped right in here. And we're gonna move on to our rosemary next. So for our rosemary, what we wanna do is we actually wanna pull off the ends and kind of get rid of that woody inside. So if you have a really fresh rosemary, which this one looks like it is, the tops will break off and you'll just be left with a short piece of the stem. And so you just wanna break off those pieces ever so delicately. Rosemary is a pretty powerful herb, so I like to use less unless we're cooking it. If you're cooking rosemary, fresh rosemary, you always wanna use more. So go ahead and make a quick pile, and we're just gonna go ahead and mince. It already smells like Christmas in here, my goodness. And then into our bowl we go for our final stir. All right, so we're gonna stir in our herbs, and we're gonna follow it up with a little bit of oil and vinegar just to finish off our marinade. Super simple. This can sit in the fridge for up to 7 days before you need to serve it, or it can be served immediately. Keep in mind, as it sits, the better it gets. The last thing we wanna put in is we're gonna put in about 2 tablespoons of oil. This is a nice extra virgin olive oil. I like this brand because it's source verified, so you know that you're getting a high quality olive oil. We also want to add in an acid. Anytime you make a marinade, it's 2 parts acid to every 1 part oil. An acid that I've chosen is going to be a white wine vinegar. Estimate or measure your acid. So we want to layer in enough acid to make it tart. We really want to cook the mushrooms with the acid and break down some of those proteins from the fiber-rich vegetables to really give it a nice edge. Whenever I'm making a marinade, I like to add in various acids. So you could add in vinegar and a citrus, like a lemon juice, or you could do just a lemon juice or a lime juice to think about really layering in the different flavors. So there we have it. Our easy marinated mushrooms and beans is all set and ready to serve. We can just set this to the side and let it marinate while we finish the rest of our recipes. So next up, we have one of my favorite winter salads. It's a citrus stack, or a beautiful citrus and beet salad. For our salad, you need 2 different types of citrus. So I'm gonna use a grapefruit and an orange, and you're gonna wanna gather some cooked beets. These beets I bought cooked. I didn't have to peel the skin and roast, but if you have those, which are awesome sources of seasonal ingredients, you're welcome to pre-roast for this recipe. But this is also equally as simple, and they're usually found in the deli section. So work smart and not harder. So for our recipe, we're gonna start with the first stack of our citrus. I like to take the grapefruit, and we're actually gonna peel it using our knife. So going around the edges, we're gonna be removing all of the white parts of the grapefruit. Grapefruit is a really excellent source of phytonutrients that help fight diseases like cancer, and is a really great thing to add in for a little extra vitamin C and that kind of citrusy flavor that we're looking for. When I think about adding in grapefruit, I always think of it very kind of organically as, something you might eat for breakfast with a spoon. But this is a great way to make something that's sweet, a little savory, with a salad and kind of a layering different fruits and vegetables. People always think that, a salad needs to be loaded with greens in order to be a true salad form. But I challenge you to add a little fruit this season and think differently about your salad blends. So now that we've got most of the white off of our grapefruit, we're gonna go ahead and turn it on its side, and we're actually gonna make slices to get these nice, beautiful star shapes of our grapefruit. Now the ends, if they aren't very pretty, you can just set them aside, and we're actually gonna squeeze them for some juice for our dressing. So the first step is to kind of layer on the plate some of these star shapes. The grapefruits go on the bottom. So next I'm gonna grab one of my oranges, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Fun fact, oranges have the second most vitamin C of any of our produce. Actually, bell peppers have the first, but oranges are a great second alternative. So I'm gonna remove all of that white part of our orange, all of the skin. For a fun tip, you can keep the rinds if you want. You can make them, add a little vinegar and make them into kind of a nice household cleaner. They also smell delicious if you wanna kind of stew them on the stove and have a really non-toxic scent going for a very holiday spice. So just like we did to our grapefruit, we're gonna slice into little star shapes. We're gonna go ahead and just layer around the plate in the same way that we did our grapefruit. So with this, before we peel it, our second orange, I wanna bring our attention over to our salad dressing. For this, you're gonna want a zester, I have a microplane, anything to kind of get the edge or of the peel into it. We're gonna zest just half of this orange and just kind of plop it into a bowl or a container, whatever you're gonna use to make your dressing. Orange zest and the peel itself has really powerful anti-inflammatory properties that we want to capture. And so whenever you're thinking about using any citrus fruit, think about the whole fruit. Utilize the whole thing before throwing it in the trash. So like I said, just about half of our fruit is just all we need to go in, and it makes quite a lot of zest. And so we're going to go ahead and peel that final orange to make our stack. So for this one, we're gonna save a little bit of the end, and we're gonna use it with our grapefruit to kind of flavor our dressing. So we're gonna make just a few slices before saving about half of our orange to squeeze for juice. So we're gonna take the remainder orange and grapefruit, and we're gonna give them a really good squeeze and try and get some of the juice out into our dressing. This is just another layer of acid that I talked about earlier that you can add as a substitute or in addition to kind of flavor your dressing. We're gonna get some of the sweetness as well as some of the acid from this fruit, and then we're gonna add our own acid in the form of vinegar as well. So we're gonna set our dressing just to the side for a moment, and we're gonna revisit the beets. So these will stain your fingers and your cutting board and pretty much anything they touch. So I don't recommend wearing white, and I also recommend maybe wearing some gloves if you don't want to stain your fingers. Just go ahead and take your beets, and we're just gonna make some nice slices through the product. And then we're gonna layer it, just like we're doing everything else, onto our salad. And you can get creative with it. If you don't wanna make slices, you can also cube them or cut them into quarters for little bite-sized pieces. But I kinda like the look of the little rounds, matching rounds for this salad. Now, beets are something that not everyone loves. Some people think that they have a really heavy, earthy flavor, but I think paired with something bright like a citrus fruit really helps to balance it out. I also think that beets are an understated powerhouse of a fruit or a vegetable. When we think about beets and the power that they actually have their own form of plant-based nitrates. And nitrates are something that are in preservatives, but when they come naturally from food, they're actually changed through the bacteria of your mouth when you eat them. And the nitrates are formed into nitrites, and that's the premise of nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is actually what we need to tell our vascular tissue that the tissue that supports our heart to dilate or to get enlarged so that we're able to actually avoid things like high blood pressure. So who knew eating a beet was something as simple as helping to lower your risk of hypertension? So now that we have our citrus and beets all layered, I want to take a little bit of greens because we want to be very festive this holiday season. And so I have a little bit of arugula. I actually was at the farm at St. Joe's today, and so we picked a little bit of arugula. This isn't anything overwhelming. It's just something to give it a little bit of color and balance. You could always plate this on the bottom and kind of stack all of your citrus fruits on top, but I think it looks really pretty when you have all the colors balanced for a really nice treat. So just a few extra greens on the plate. Finally, we got to finish our dressing. So we're going to take about a total of 1/4 cup of acid. So I'm using a measuring cup here, and I'm going to shake in a little bit more of our white wine vinegar, just to measure about a total of about 1/2 cup of acid. Then I'm going to come by and I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of olive oil, just to make our dressing kind of come together. Whenever we're thinking about using oils, whenever I'm using an oil that I'm not cooking, olive oil is my choice. And you want to get something that's a really nice high quality product so that you can really balance all of the needs for that healthy, heart-healthy fats, those omega-3 fatty acids, as opposed to saturated fat like the kinds that are in milks or cheeses. So go ahead and we'll just mix up this dressing here. And we're just going to take 2 tablespoons. We're just going to drizzle it over the top. This dressing, as you notice, I have lots left, goes a long way, and so we can add that into other salads throughout the week. If you put it in a jar, it'll stay for about 1.5 weeks in total. If you want something a little bit sweeter, you can also add a little bit of honey to this salad dressing. I tend to think that the citrus fruits go a long way in being naturally sweet, but it's also a really great alternative. So with that, we have a beautiful salad that's going to be a showstopper at your holiday table, and something fresh to keep you through the season. Well, this is all we have time for here at the Carhartt Workshop. We have our delicious marinated bean and mushroom appetizer and our citrus and beet salad. We have had so much fun cooking with you all today, and we wish you nothing but the best this holiday season. Thank you to our sponsors at St. Joe's, the American Heart Association, Carhartt, and all of our providers for making sure that you have a healthy and happy holiday season.